They just had the gamut, but the majority have been really good. It's a saving, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it should. Okay, the meeting will come to order. Please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our first order of business is to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Right.
There's actually a previous agenda. Did we approve that one already?
We're looking at minutes.
Yeah, the minutes, I'm sorry. The minutes, the previous minutes that we tabled until.
Yeah, that's the next thing.
She's
We're getting
Oh,
there.
sorry. You're
right on top.
I'm out of work.
All right,
Harlan.
so our next, as helpfully introduced, our next order of business is to approve the open session minutes of October 24th, 2018 that were postponed from the last meeting. Is there a motion to approve those?
Motion to approve the minutes from October 15th, 24th.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Any corrections, edits, or things we need to address on this?
The only thing I'll note is the ones I emailed out does say approved November 5th. I will change that to today's date. Thank you.
All right, so the motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And the October 24th minutes are approved unanimously. Next, we move on to the November 5th, 2018 minutes. We have a motion for approval.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from November 5th, 2018. Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Are there any edits, additions, subtractions, or other corrections needed? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And the November 5th minutes are approved unanimously. Next, we have student comments. So we welcome Lily back. What wonderful things are happening at NIPMA?
So in the past couple of weeks, we have done the school-wide brainstorming event. And on November 7th, all students and teachers participated in a school-wide brainstorming session to plan the next 21st Century Learning Conference. And Mrs. Ramsey, the NIPMA's Career, Community, and Innovations Coordinator, planned the event. Included games, cider, food, and a photo booth, all under a fall festival theme. And the goal of the event was to brainstorm the next conference and connect the conference to the portrait of the graduate. And a lot of ideas were brainstormed from the sessions, and we aligned them. And some of the ideas fell into the categories of global citizen, which emphasize easy cultural cooking and how to handle hatred in our community, solution seeker, surviving the first month of college, understanding taxes, and understanding how business leaders become successful, skillful collaborator, which needs to understand politics and how the government works, and discussing LGBTQ-related issues, and working together to put on a talent show, inspired innovator, video making, using science and the use of the awesomeness of drones, and using cricket to enhance a school project. A mindful learner, which emphasizes mental health awareness and yoga, an effective communicator, which shadows a government official, understands the basics of writing a novel and bullet journaling. And the actual 21st Century Conference will take place on January 23rd, and the goal will be to provide students with a chance to explore the portrait of a graduate, but also have some fun working with teachers and community leaders. And Mr. Clements and Mrs. Moran have hinted at some big surprises that should make the day fun for everyone. So, the portrait of a graduate is also going to have reflective rubrics, and this will reflect on the activities that the students took in part and help them explore the portrait of a graduate. And in order to do this, NIMAC will develop the rubrics. And on December 18th, Mr. Clements and Mrs. Moran will be running a full-day workshop with a group of approximately 30 students and teachers. And they will create draft rubrics that can reflect on the progress of this portrait. And the hope is to create a tool that can be adapted to the needs of students and teachers of all grade levels. This week we are going to be having FAST, which is faculty and students together on Wednesday. and the day will start with a school-wide speaker, and this year it's Patrick Moore, and he will be addressing students on conquering complacency, how to be bold outside the bubble. He will be talking to students and teachers about how to apply boldness from the choices we make to life we lead regardless of the outcome, and also talk about redefining success as something to be achievable but not instantaneous. The student council has planned all kinds of games and activities for the day, and everyone will wear their class colors, and the day ends with a pep rally. As for student activities in the past couple weeks, all our fall teams, sports teams have had great seasons, and last week the boys soccer team competed. Unfortunately they lost, but in the state final, and this was their third straight year in the state finals. Our football team won and played in the Super Bowl, and cross-country runners competed in an all-state meeting on Sunday. Girls soccer players played in the district final, and volleyball made their playoffs. A drama put on a spectacular performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream, and our musicians put on a school-wide concert last week, in which all the chamber groups performed for students and teachers. And that's been it for the past couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next, we move on to community comments. Is there a member of the community who wishes to address the committee? Seeing none, hearing none, we shall move on to superintendent's comments.
Okay, thank you. Well, good evening. Just very briefly, you do have in your packet the annual Choice In, Choice Out, and then also BBT enrollment reports. As you can see, I would say that we're pretty much at status quo or slight improvement with regard to the number of students that are choicing out. I believe it's 8 fewer this year versus last year. At present, we've got 48 students choicing out, but 162 choicing into the district, which is really kind of a very nice balance as far as where it gets us with regard to choice funds that we'll be able to access for our operational budget. And as you can see, this year, the official October 1st enrollment numbers from BBT are 171 students, which is 15 fewer than last year. And again, that kind of is attributed to the number of students that are applying, but then are matriculating as freshmen. I think as you can see, this year's freshman class between the two communities is 33, which is on par with where we were the previous year. So it is an improvement. It's still quite a few students from our two communities, but it's lower than where we've been in years past, where it's been pushing upwards of about 200. Okay? Secondly, I've also included in your packet a formal request to the Upton Board of Selectmen for the amount of, I believe it's approximately $26,000 for the purchase of some additional technology for our two elementary schools from the Racine Fund. And what this would go towards would be 60 sixth generation iPads along with their cases and keyboards to be used for a multitude of purposes, various educational apps, writing, and so on in the elementary classrooms. As I said, they were very helpful 2 years ago at this time to fund 60 HP laptops along with the portable carts and recharging stations. So we remain cautiously optimistic, and as I said, I'll keep you apprised as we hear from the selectmen on the Racine Fund. Okay, and that's what I have for this evening.
Joe, before you go on, can you just explain the Racine Fund?
Sure. The Racine Fund is named after the Racine family who lived in Upton, and they have left behind a charitable trust, which is accessed both by the regional school district but also the town for not only educational programs but also recreational programs, things related to health, safety, and wellness for the town of Upton, and so on. So if you notice, every May when we do the reorganization, usually one Upton representative from the committee is a representative to the Racine Fund. So Every 2 years or so, the Board of Selectmen meet and consider requests. And essentially, the funds that are drawn on are essentially interest funds from the trust that's been established. And how many, it's been in place for quite a few years,
Oh,
right,
yeah.
Kelly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And
used for multiple-
generally, we put in requests on an every other year basis.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, next we move to administrators' comments. So we'll hear about the adoption of a new student information system. Welcome, David Hugh.
Hi there. As Joe put in your background notes, during the administrator team meeting last week, I did a presentation to the team about our current information, student information system, iPass, which you've probably already accessed from the parent portal. From our side, it's very similar, but with a lot more functionality and options for depending on what role you have in the district. Back up to maybe May of this year, I had a conversation with Maureen Cohen about what was our roadmap for iPass. Over the years, we've been getting feedback from teachers and from staff, just being, like, what are we doing with iPass? Is this, it's always just been kind of, this is where we're going. We're just gonna keep using iPass, it's well supported, everything's great, yay iPass. Over the course of this year, though, we've noticed a degradation in that support, and it's attributed to a few things, and I'll give you kind of a rundown of them here. So here we are. We're currently using iPass. iPass was a freestanding product owned by a company called Information Marketing Group. They were based in Framingham, local, great support, great functionality. iPass was acquired by Harris Computer Systems a few years ago. This is a national company. They bought the little guy and combined them with several other little guys. After that happened, iPass's development really slowed down. We started seeing, there weren't new features being released. They kept it current with the state standards, but there wasn't anything new, wow, awesome in there. Overall, I'd say the product functions. We're, not in a dire situation, but it's not all that great either. I don't get from my staff and the tech side being like, God, I love this application. It's more of, yeah, it's working. The other issue was we had a major technical problem last spring, and it took them almost a month to sort it out. And we were able to band-aid the situation and keep things moving, but it wasn't what we expected or what we wanted going forward. So really, why do we want to move? There are newer technologies available. iPass was built in the late 90s. It was released in 99, so we're going on 20 years on this code. There's better integrations and systems of reporting out there now in newer products. For one thing, we use Google Classroom, the Google Suite of applications. Being able to attach the SIS system to those kinds of external applications and being able to push reports out to them on an ongoing basis is very attractive to us. There are better technical support options out there now, especially with larger companies. If we went with a more national firm, you're going to have an 800 number with 24-hour support probably. Right now we're dealing with a 5x7 contract, and it's annoying when this is a product that's being utilized pretty much 24/7 now by us during the school day, but also parents outside connecting from home. One of the things we're looking for is a responsive design. That's speaking to when iPass was developed, it was developed to show up on a desktop screen, like on, at the time, Internet Explorer. Now that things have moved on and we have tablets, which didn't exist in iPass's early days, being able to jump from one device to the next and have the experience be similar is something we're looking for. With iPass right now, you go, what you see is what you get every time. Whether you're on a phone, if you've ever tried to check iParent from your iPhone, you'll know what I mean. This also might be an opportunity for us to consolidate other applications too. Right now we have the nursing software built into iPass, so when the nurses log events during the course of the day for medication or for office visits, it's all right there in iPass. special education has an external product that we synchronize with. There may be an opportunity where we could possibly combine that into this and have it all in one portal. It's something we would need to explore and see what the pros and cons are. I'll also say that I have some concerns that, you know, I've been talking to other districts around that are on iPass, and it seems like we're in the minority of people that are still using it actively. Many districts are looking or have either already moved or are actively trying to move off of iPass. Knowing that there weren't many districts to begin with, trying to, you know, be the last one on the ship, I'm kind of worried that at some point, Harris may just discontinue the product altogether and move us off onto something else so that they can consolidate support. It's a real worry of mine at this point. Again, some more improved teacher reporting, like the Google Apps, new workflows for scheduling, course selection. The course scheduler in iPass has a lot left to be desired. There are better products out there that could probably streamline some of the ways we do scheduling. Also, the ability to do custom reports based on user. You know, teachers, for the most part, have a standard canned set of reports they use all the time, and they'll always be in whatever product we use, but from an administrator's view, being able to make custom reports that we can pull on a schedule or specific to, you know, a district-wide view, being able to do that easily. iPass doesn't really have that functionality, and we're really looking for that. We're also looking for, as I see a lot of parents, you know, a better parent portal, something with more options, more, you know, features, the ability to get it on your iPhone during lunch and not have to, you know, pull your hair out. Also, you know, with our iPad implementation at this point, we're looking for something for the student side that's iOS compliant, so that it will work with the iPads that students have, and also Mac support for the teachers who are carrying MacBook Airs. So where are we going? This is in a very aggressive timeline. I'll just put that out there. But first things first, we need to establish a review team with stakeholders from all groups, including the school committee. We would identify a criteria for a new SIS system. We'd establish that probably in our first meeting. Then we would set up product reviews and try to select a replacement. We would set up that product and start copying data. And then we would start providing training to users. My goal would be that we would try to merge the two systems and go live for the start of school next year. There's some cost to that. There's a lot of data in there. We've been on iPass for 10 years, full time. Before that, we had some, you know, transition time. So we also pulled 4 years of data from our previous system into iPass. So in total, there's 14 years worth of data in iPass that would need to be migrated over to whatever we go to. In order, this would still allow for the high school to pull transcripts for previous year's students. There would also be costs around, you know, how much of this data really do we need to take? Do we need to take a detailed staff attendance? Yes. Do we have to take detailed student attendance from kindergarten to, say, middle school from 10 years ago? You know, there would be some options around that we would have to discuss with Bernie and kind of set a criteria for it.
Are there actually, I'm sorry for interrupting, but are there actually regs or specific guidance with regard to the specificity of data that must be kept?
So we would have to investigate that further and come up with a plan that actually addresses all of that and keeps us in bounds as far as saving that data. My gut feeling is the majority of that data is more like final grades and final counts. So you don't necessarily need detailed data on attendance from 10 years ago, but you just need the final counts for the end of the year.
Sure.
Something like that. So we'll get through that. That'll be part of the process. As far as the human cost, for teachers, there's going to be a lot of retraining, just new product, there'll be a new grade book, there'll be how to take attendance, how to run reports, that kind of stuff. For the admin assistants, will be that, plus scheduling, biographical input, and really the attendance reporting, because they're making the phone calls at the end of the morning. For the administrators, all of that, plus discipline, plus other, you know, bus routes and what have you. And then the district data admin, in this case Bernie Curtis, it would be a full retrain on the product. And I'm really, concerned, but also happy that Bernie is here for this. Like, she can guide us through this. She's been through this once before when we went to IPAS. So as we merge off of it, it'll be a good opportunity for her to kind of guide us. She really knows the regs inside out. She knows what we're getting into, so I'm very confident we're good there. And really our next steps is we need to assemble that team. I engaged an outside partner, CELT, the Center for Education, Leadership, and Technology. They're a firm in Marlborough, Mass. We use them for internet consulting occasionally when I do infrastructure. They also have a operations side too, that they consult for districts all around the country. I spoke to their procurement guy, this gentleman by the name of John Bowles, and he came out and met with me and really went through all of the finer points, if you will, of what we should be looking for in an SIS product. And we had a really good conversation, and I think there's a possibility that they might be able to help us facilitate the meetings and keep us on the straight and narrow. What excites me about having them come in is that we're not just looking at the same 6 or 10 products that we all know. These guys also work outside of our bubble and can say, hey, have you looked at this? Or, there's another product out here that does this. Maybe we can ask for them to build this into the product, or things like that. I'm really looking at. So look at all the products, kind of come to a decision and make a product recommendation for us to move forward with. And that's all I got. I know I flew through that, but I wanted to keep time. My plan is to send out an email to staff, probably this week before we get out for Thanksgiving, inviting them to, apply to be on the team, if you will. I look forward to hoping some of you will too. And if there's any questions, ideas, thoughts.
So do you have usability data today? And how the students, teachers, administrators, parents use it? Kind of what the pain points are?
One of the things we want
besides just the general, anecdotal, the system isn't very good.
We get that a lot. Mostly it's stuff we can feel anyway. We know that the software is dated. We know that it doesn't run nice on your cell phone. Mostly anecdotal though.
Okay.
What concerns me more is the support piece. If this product just goes south, and the state requires us to replicate our data to them so they can pull data in aggregate, like around attendance and demographic, and we have to do that on an ongoing basis. So there's a framework for that called SIF. So whatever product we go with has to be SIF compliant. That limits us to a certain number anyway. All the major players are. So that's something we'll be looking for going forward too.
Okay, so our current license structure for this for iPass is it an enterprise license? Is it a subscription license?
Subscription, so it's annual. We run about $40,000 a year annually on that. The products out there that would replace it are in the same ballpark. I don't expect there to be a budget impact really of much of anything.
The budgetary impact is going to be on the data transfer process,
So
correct?
we've got to migrate everything.
That's what.
And it's that I would consider to be the most painful aspect of this. I've been in 2 different districts, one in Rhode Island and one in Mansfield, where the district made the decision to change the student information system. It is a very long, very tedious process. Usually, obviously, that's done during the summertime, but it's very, very labor intensive. For the simple reason that first, as Joe alluded to, you've got to make decisions about what you're going to transfer. And my experience in my 2 previous districts was the transfer is not always clean and simple as you think it's going to be, as far as transferring various fields, and then there a lot of times there's data input errors that sometimes can bug up the process, so to speak. So it's not a simple or complex piece. And then you also have, for better or for worse, this is a district that is very, very used to iPass. And that human element of training all of your power users, all of your teachers, whether, you know, there's somebody, you know, like, you know, Tracy or Julia in the Clough office, or just a teacher who's taking attendance. There's always a learning curve there, and it's never a smooth or easy process. So I think as a leadership team, and not to project myself onto Joe, but I think I can do it this time, there's always been a little bit of a certain reticence to making the switch, for the simple reason that you know that you're looking at a real bear of a project, a lot of work. But I think we're in all likelihood we're overdue. I think there's plenty of projects that, plenty of products out there that are far superior to it. And again, looking at it from a parent perspective, as far as the portal, I think we could do a lot better. I have one question for you that I learned in this process that BBT is also using. Is there any possibility that we could partner with them and kind of go in as, you know, kind of one purchasing group?
Glad you asked that question. I did meet with BBT's tech staff because I had the same question, and they are in the same boat we are. They did come sit in on the meeting I had with CELT just to kind of get a feel for where they are, where we are. They're on a more aggressive timetable just because their data is hosted by the vendor itself. Ours is actually physically here, so if something went south tomorrow, we still have all of our data accessible to us easily. If the company blew up and went away tomorrow, BBT would be in a little bit deeper hole.
But iPass today is owned by Harris, correct?
Correct.
So Harris, have they shared with you kind of the future product kind of roadmap?
They haven't, and
where
that's
this is,
concerning
or-
me, because it seems like they're holding out for hey, by the way, you're gonna move to Harris SIS or something, it's gonna be
So
your
they have a
next.
competing product, which would be one.
They have several, actually, and it seems to be kind of cobbled together out of, you know, the remnants of iPass, the remnants of a couple other products, which,
If they had sort of a future roadmap, they actually might have a migration strategy for those other products.
agreed, and I wouldn't discount the company entirely, just based on how they've handled the iPass piece of it. We're not impressed.
Support, you mean, like the support that they're
Support, yes, and just the lack of communication from them as far as what they're doing with the product. There wasn't any real clear, up until, I remember going to MassQ last year, and they were standing there saying, you know, hey, you know, this iPass works great, and they were still selling it. And to my knowledge, I don't think they're selling it anymore, they're just retaining the existing, you know, fleet of users, and they're eventually gonna do something with them.
So did BBT seem interested in doing something in collaboration?
They were open to the idea, and I
They were
think
open to it?
we have a Blackstone Valley Tech Directors meeting coming up.
Okay.
So during that conference, I'm sure that's going to be a topic of discussion, because several of the Blackstone Valley schools, districts are on iPass still. So they're either looking or they're thinking about looking, so now would be the time to, you know, kind of gang up as a group and be like, okay.
Yeah, have a little leverage.
It would be nice. I found in the past working, you know, when you have so many disjointed districts trying to, you know, make decisions, they're all in different places financially, they're all in different places politically as far as what they can do. It's been difficult to try to, you know, do a mass buy. We have done it in the past with internet, because we all use the same provider, so it was just easy, you know, we could.
Regardless of whether all the districts buy it or not, if there's no viable strategy communicated from the vendor, they will be exposed. So you can get that kind of leverage with them saying, look, if you don't have a migration strategy, then you're obviously dumping all of us on the floor and we're all leaving. So it'll commit people within their entire customer base to dump them.
Agreed.
Which has got to be a problem for them. So
It's already started to happen, so
Yeah,
we're seeing
okay.
the exodus, and that's what's
How many
troubling.
districts are?
Yeah, I've been told there's less than 20 that are still on, us
Yeah.
included. So
Less
that's
than 20 districts
total.
that still use iPass?
Yeah, that was that's not a confirmed number, but
no,
that's
it's
the
just
number.
within Massachusetts?
Yeah, originally they were Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania. Last I heard, they were just Massachusetts at this point.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that's where we are.
Well, you'll find out whether they care or not.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm gonna phone call if it's me. So thank
Harris
you.
itself is a national company.
Yes, and like I say, they purchased Information Marketing Group, which was our local vendor for it, and they absorbed their staff. And I noticed right away, like, first thing to do was they got rid of a lot of their technical people. They got rid of, the usual expectations. They got rid of this, they combined sales, they combined, marketing. I'm like, all right, I get that. But then when the support people started leaving, I said, oh no, this isn't good. And it's been a year or two where we've had struggles to get things resolved. And this last spring, we had, like I said, a major issue that took a long time to resolve, longer than it should have. And it was right about that time Maureen and I had a conversation about, like, what's the future of this? And I said, we need to start.
What kind of issue was it?
It was a technical problem on the database side that should have been resolved quickly, if they had had their database staff still intact. What ended up happening was they hunted down one of their former employees who was able to, do a contract job for us to sort it out. But, the problem with dealing with a small vendor locally is they have a better relationship with you in a lot of ways where they're like, oh, I'll customize that for you. When you're a large firm in the national space dealing with a lot of customers and you run into this one-off situation, it gets a little messy. And that's
We were requesting a one-off situation in the data?
we had many moons ago, and there was a little
I see.
variance.
So there was a bug in
A
what
bug,
we
yes.
addressed. All right.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Next, we'll move on to subcommittee updates and Superintendent's Evaluation Subcommittee.
Okay. So just to kind of give a little bit of background on the superintendent evaluation. So it's a full year process. It starts in the fall with goal setting. There's a half year kind of assessment of where Joe's at in the goals that he set early in the year, and then it all sums up. There's a summative review at the very end of the year in which each of the school committee members will kind of give Joe a rating on different areas, and the specific areas are his achievement of his student learning goal, his professional practice goal, his school improvement goal, but he's also rated on standards of instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, as well as professional culture. And then he also receives an overall performance rating. So this is kind of an ongoing cycle where at the end of the cycle, we're a little pushed back, we're a little further back than we usually are for a variety of different reasons, but today is the summative evaluation. And then what will follow this will be his goal setting for the next year, 2018, 2019. So the rating scale is as follows: exemplary, proficient, needs improvement, and unsatisfactory. So we're having to give him a rating in that, but it also gives us an opportunity to make some comments on where Joe is in his goals. So I'm gonna go through each of those areas that I mentioned, all of the learning goals, professional practice, school improvement, the standards of instructional leadership, et cetera, and talk about where his rating fell, and some of the evidence that supports that rating. And I always write a lot, but I'm actually trying very hard to culminate everybody's input, because we all do this independently, and everybody comes at it from a little different perspective, or has more information on one part of the goal, or different areas, and I try to pull that all together so that it's a nice synopsis. And I always like to give you the time that you deserve too, Joe, on this as well, because I think it's important. So Joe's student learning goal was to develop coherency to homework across the district. And we, as a group, determined that that was a goal that was met. He focused a lot of attention on what we think is often an overlooked part of the student experience, which is the homework load. And I think as a result of the Metro West survey, also the K through 12 insight, we started to see perhaps that this was an issue in our district. So with the assistance of Dr. Maureen Cohen, a lot of stakeholders were brought together to discuss this issue, and just at the last school committee meeting, we received the results of that. The group was brought together to analyze student data, but also talk about what are some of the best practices for homework and how to make it purposeful, useful, not nearly as stressful as perhaps it's been for some of our students. So the result of the task force was new homework guidelines. One of the themes that was kind of incorporated into Joe's assessments from school committee members was that this was very, very comprehensive work. We were all very impressed with it. We'd love to see some of these guidelines put into policy so that we can make sure that everybody is adopting these guidelines, and also kind of putting into effect some implementation of surveying students to make sure that it's having the intended impacts that this whole task force was intended, to really try to make sure that homework was purposeful, useful, and appropriate for different age levels. So that was the student learning goal. Professional practice goal for Joe was to define student successes using multiple measures in a modern context. That's a mouthful. And we determined that Joe had made significant progress in this area. I think collectively we all agreed that this was a pretty gigantic goal. Probably not a one-year goal, probably a multi-year goal, but that significant progress had been made towards this goal. The biggest piece of evidence that kind of supports this was the strategic planning process in Inspire and the portrait of a graduate, which Lily just spoke so eloquently about. This is kind of our new litmus test of what is success in our district. In a modern context. So all that work, which Joe kind of oversaw, led us to Portrait of a Graduate. The piece that still needs to be developed, and I'm sure will be part of next year's plan, is creating very specific benchmarks and assessments in order to assess whether our students are achieving this measure of student success in our district. So we all agreed it was a great beginning, more work to be done, but bravo, because it's a gigantic goal. Okay, so number 3, school improvement goals. There were 3 school improvement goals. The first one was increasing opportunities in modern learning. The second was promoting success through social emotional learning. And the third was improving communication, collaboration, and outreach. So I'll speak independently on each one. In general, that is given one rating, and we had determined that significant progress had been met in this area as well. So opportunities in modern learning, again, it all kind of comes back to the strategic planning process and the new plan, Inspire, that we have. This speaks directly to our focus on modern learning. We've spent significant time on PD in the form of book studies, guest speakers, surveys, professional practice goals for all of our educators to build capacity in this area. We've also taken steps towards building community partnerships with companies as well as individuals to support our teachers, as well as offer resources for meaningful student opportunities inside and outside school walls. Promoting success through social emotional learning. So clearly, I think everybody in this room knows that this was a major, major focus for this district this past year. I know that we're going to hear a little bit more about PBIS tonight, which speaks to the focus on SEL. We've revamped our DCAP document to include some important SEL principles. Under Joe's leadership, we've created so many new mental health partnerships in our community, spent a good deal of PD with our staff on SEL principles. Growth mindset messages are everywhere. This is all part of SEL. We feel that there's still more work to be done in SEL. I think everywhere across the district, this is the theme. We're realizing how very important it is to student success, so we all feel like we'll continue to see this in Joe's planning process. RTI continued to be refined to support all students. Special ed is about to undergo an audit, so we'll have recommendations from that to make additional improvements, which is all just working towards that overall goal of kind of integrating SEL in every area of our schools. Improving communication, collaboration, and outreach. There is overwhelming evidence that speaks to Joe's focus in these three areas. To name a few, we've made great progress in involving the school community in its mission for SEL. The school, not just SEL, but in general as well. The school community has had multiple opportunities to provide feedback to the administration on what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, and we're obviously speaking to that feedback and that data that we're getting back to make changes and to improve the school experience for students. There were was more than just the K through 12 survey. There was the homework survey, the Metro West survey, the ability to serve on a variety of different boards. I know we've talking about the Blizzard bags, the homework board, students are invited, parents are invited, teachers are invited, school committee members are invited. This really is a group effort. Additionally, we updated the Blackboard Connect communication system, which has gotten very positive feedback, having the 2 messages a week, a little bit more concise, predictable information. The one area that kind of came up as an area for improvement was consistent classroom communication to parents or the homes, being more in alignment across elementary schools, middle school, high school, obviously different standards for different grade levels, but consistency throughout the teachers and throughout the classrooms. Okay, moving right along. Performance standards. Okay, under instructional leadership, we found Joe to be proficient. The superintendent holds high expectations for everyone and promotes continuous improvement across the district, and always fosters a culture where data-driven decision-making occurs, resulting in amazing learning environments for students and teachers. We find that to be very consistent. Joe is very collaborative, sets very meaningful goals, as we can see in this document, but he also speaks to the school improvement plans as well. And I think all of it starts with our strategic plan, Inspire, and before this, Forward. It's always broken down into manageable chunks for all the different stakeholders. We think he does a great job gaining the trust and respect of his principals, his admin team, teachers, so that all of this important work can be done, because you can't get anywhere unless people trust you. Joe is highly visible in all schools and classrooms. He's able to monitor progress and provide feedback that enhances learning and teaching in our schools. The superintendent, along with our leadership team, has taken positive steps towards creating methodology for tracking student progress, and more work is being developed and hopefully implemented in the future for ongoing informal assessments and student surveys to ensure that we can elicit salient feedback, reflect on the feedback, and then make useful changes to keep improving. Sorry, this is very wordy. I'm doing my best. Management and operations. So we found Joe to be proficient in this area, though he did have some exemplary grades as well. We see the evidence in our district's ability to keep moving our students forward, as well as our very positive reputation in the larger school community in Massachusetts. He has continued to work strategically on many management and operational areas, including student safety, teacher negotiations and grievances, and just being fiscally responsible in his budgeting practices. We find him to be very collaborative within our 2 communities, Upton and Mendon, in terms of talking with the other leadership and making sure that we're mindful of the restraints of each town, but still pushing the goals of the district forward. Areas that we see for kind of future work would be the capital expenses, requiring foresight and planning and a clear communication message in order that we're able to maintain the infrastructure at our 4 schools and get community buy-in should we need additional funds to make these things happen. Another kind of area is just an overall communication plan regarding possible upcoming fiscal constraint, new policies, or just kind of sharing out Inspire with everybody, making sure that the leadership team, the superintendent, the leadership team, teachers are all communicating the same message, and that parents are hearing it loud and clear so that they have buy-in to this fabulous plan. Under family and community engagement, we find Joe to be exemplary. His visibility in the schools and communities is testament to the passion that he feels for his role as our superintendent, and our visionary for the school district. He's at literally everything. Classroom walkthroughs, task force, the advisory boards, attending concerts, student performance, sporting events, 5Ks, fundraising efforts. He's literally at everything. I think there's not a single person in this community who doesn't know who Dr. Mishek is. His communication style is engaging, clear, honest, sometimes humorous when warranted. He's a team player. He's approachable, available to his staff and parents as well as other community members. He's skilled at presenting information in a clear and easy to understand way, sometimes using PowerPoint, well, often using PowerPoint presentations, but other methods as well. And I loved, one of our school committee members used this quote. It said, "The Mercy is a warm, welcoming, inclusive school family, thanks to the example he sets for all." And I could not include that because I thought that kind of summed it up in that area. Okay, almost through. Two more topics. Professional culture, we found Joe to be exemplary. Again, another role model in this area, setting high expectations for the district and all of the people within the district, all of the players. And we found that nothing reflects his commitment more than the development of Inspire. The amount of time and effort and energy that went into fleshing out this plan, as well as just the initial collaboration of bringing in not just all of the stakeholders, but bringing in all of the necessary data to inform the plan. So again, it was a very in-depth process. But from process to context, the plan showed the nurturing of school culture of reflective practice, high expectation, continuous learning for staff and for leadership. He has cultivated a shared educational vision around preparing every student to succeed, not just in college or career, but also as a responsible citizen. He models teamwork, collaboration, information gathering, delegation, professional communication that he expects of himself as well as his team. He's involved in multiple professional organizations that allow him to develop himself and ultimately develop our district. He is focused on self-improvement, engaging in book studies, podcasts, and has even learned to speak Spanish to support the SI program in our district, which is nothing shy of like crazy impressive to me. Overall performance, Joe was rated as proficient, but as I said last year, I feel like if there was a proficient plus, one of the things in culminating the information, it's kind of like you have to look at everything, and I don't feel like they give us a lot of latitude in the ratings. So, in summation, we feel that Joe has been a strong, confident, and capable leader for our district who prefers to challenge himself with lofty goals, rather rest on the accolades that he's already earned. Every year, he's kind of one-upping himself. His passion and performance have helped drive our district and our students forward. The nature of his job pulls him in so many different directions, but he's the type of leader who never takes his eyes off the prize, that being student learning, student engagement, and the health of our students. While there is always more work to be done, we are proud of the educational innovation. I actually want to give credit to somebody on the school committee because this is their quote directly. While there is always more work to be done, we are proud of the educational innovation, collaboration, and transparency which have become the hallmarks of our district, thanks to Joe's leadership. So that kind of sums up in a not so concise way, but again, I always like to give you the credit. You work very hard, and this is an important document. And we just all want to say thank you for your leadership in our district and moving our kids forward.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very, very humbled by that. I appreciate, you as the chair of the subcommittee, Diane, the subcommittee, the six of you. I consider myself to be blessed to be working with the six of you, but also with our leadership team and with the entire staff of the MRSD. I say this honestly, this is my 29th year in this business. I've never worked in a better district. I've never worked in better communities than Mendon and Upton. So thank you for the feedback. You will see at the next meeting my plan for 18-19, albeit a little bit tardy. But it will definitely incorporate some of that feedback because I very much value it, and I think it's totally on target for bringing the work to the next level.
Excellent,
So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we move on to unfinished business, the Mask Joint Conference. So Sean, Diane, and Dr. Morishchak attended.
I'll go first.
Go for it.
Once again, we had the opportunity to go to the joint conference of the Superintendents Association and the School Committee Association. I think every year it's always just a great opportunity to kind of reflect, but also recharge your batteries, connecting with colleagues, but also like-minded people from across the state that are still grappling with the same issues that we're grappling with here in Mendon Upton. I think, and guys, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the theme still very strongly was around social emotional learning, very much so. And something that I was super impressed with was one of our keynote speakers, a gentleman by the name of Mark Brackett, who is out of Yale, and he's the director of the Yale University Center for Emotional Learning. And he was one of the keynote speakers in talking about really the theory, but also what are some pragmatic strategies and practices that can be done, and actually some specific measurement tools that are out there in measuring in a kind of very quick, real-time way SEL competencies and how kids are actually feeling and reacting within the classroom. So I was delighted to learn that my Superintendents Association is bringing him back to do some additional work in both large and small groups. I think he would be terrific to bring in to here to Mendon and Upton as a speaker, or for some PD sessions. So really inspirational. There's always a pragmatic aspect to the conference. I had the opportunity to sit in a session on Friday morning regarding a workshop that the superintendent of Wallingford, Connecticut gave on zero-based budgeting, and some really different strategies to look at your budget that I intend on incorporating into the FY20 budget cycle, seeing that some of our forecasts are looking quite challenging, to say the least. So again, very, very useful and inspirational workshops.
Yeah, so from my point of view, I focused on sessions that had to do with implementing more advanced teaching techniques within a district. And it was actually a very complicated topic, because you can take something like project-based learning or some sort of interdisciplinary approach for learning. And the problem is that because it's so far off of the norm that the parents and the community has been really trained on since they were children, of course, the expectations start to get really unclear, and people feel like the community feels like they're in quicksand. So what do I do to anchor my expectations of my children's performance? What do I do to make sure I can contribute to their education along with what the teachers are doing for them? So there's a lot of open questions. So the answers came from a couple of people that were very well educated. One of the ladies there was a doctorate out of Colgate. And she had a lot of evidence for how communities can adopt these new principles. So what she was essentially saying to the, after we did whiteboard sessions and the whole, that one session that she gave, it really had to do with engagement with the community in a far greater extent than what a school is typically used to doing. So engagement with the business community to make sure, which we've already started to do, right? Engagement with the parents on a little bit deeper basis. So understanding what is expected of the children, getting feedback to them more promptly. So that was a very big aspect of her thing. But there were also other stakeholders. We have to realize, as we've discussed, what are the expectations of colleges and what are their actual motivations versus what they're actually doing for acceptances. And understanding that dynamic, it isn't always that our community schools or our private schools or our public schools are failing at providing the adequate education for colleges. It actually might be a little bit on the college's side for having expectations which are not adjusted to reality. They're more about promoting their own brand or having more engagement with profit making or trying to manage their survival in some cases. So there's a lot of things that we've got to improve on. As it made me realize we've got to improve on engaging with the community more as we start to move into our strategy, our Inspire strategy. We have to start figuring out how we get the parents the information for how we're moving forward and what the actual steps are that we're going to take and what those mean to their families in the future. So that was pretty much what I took away from it, except for there was one very good thing that there's a lawsuit going forward for the I forgot who's doing it, but they're saying that they're suing the state
For foundation budget.
foundation budget,
Yeah.
which I was very excited by.
There's some planning going on.
Planning
Very
going on.
active planning.
Yeah,
I
but
think that
it's,
followed the very depressing speech.
yes, there were some depressing speeches,
Yeah.
but the idea that Charlie Baker's a very popular governor right now, and he's doing some very effective things to improve our kids' learning experience. But we've also got to realize that the budget constraints we got put under back in 2008 have not evaporated, and we're still not getting the mandated amounts of money we're supposed to be getting from the state to operate our school districts in the public domain.
So, I went to a bunch of different workshops, a lot of them focused on SEL because it is definitely near and dear to my heart, only because I can't get beyond like all the other stuff that happens in a classroom is not nearly as effective if your child is not ready to learn, if they don't come to school ready to learn. So that's why I think SEL is so ridiculously important. And one area of interest, and the workshop that I went to didn't exactly end up being what I was hoping for. It was about parent partnerships outside of the schools with kind of on a more community-wide basis, talking about getting to younger kids and what we can do to introduce SEL principles to younger children to kind of front-end load. So now, the workshop that I went to dealt more with high-risk children, but and I'm not saying that we don't have high-risk children in both of our towns, but I don't know, I just feel like there's more that we can do to make sure our kids are prepared for kindergarten. I'm sure that there's probably a lot of teachers that kind of go, oh good Lord, what am I gonna do here? You know what I mean? Just because these kids aren't coming prepared to learn. So from a community perspective, like what could we be doing to infiltrate SEL to make it a community-wide conversation and not just a school conversation?
Yes.
That it's not like you turn 5 and all of a sudden we're gonna be concerned for your social emotional health. Like it starts sooner. And not only that, but also, and this particular workshop didn't speak to that, but everybody needs social emotional health. It's not just kids. Like it certainly bolsters you for success when you're a kid, but even as adults, we all need to be emotionally healthy so that we can be raising good children or good students. and our elderly as well. So I know that 2 years ago, I went to another group, actually Lexington School District, along with their leadership, kind of attacked it as a community-wide issue. And I don't know if we could ever move to that, but I feel like it could only help us if we did. So another theme that I walked away with is partnership of the school committee partnering with the superintendent and the leadership team to really help to move our district forward, that we're all understanding the importance of whatever the topic is, and that we're all working on this together. That it isn't just the school committee just approves, it's like we're all in this together and we're working to focus on the student and make sure all of our decisions are based on the student, and kind of drive the bus all in the same direction. I think I used the analogy with you, Joe, that one of the workshops said, try to imagine if everybody was rowing in the same direction. And I just love that, like think of what you could do if we were all, like teachers, paras, school committee, admin staff, leadership team, community, selectmen, if we're all wanting the same thing, it would be very powerful. I talked a little to the Millis superintendent, Nancy, about Maple. They're a part of the Mass Association for Personal Learning Experiences. Did I get that right? Maple. I thought that was kind of neat. So it's kind of like taking DCAP to the next level. It's like looking at each student and creating a plan that moves with them from grade to grade to make sure that we're meeting their needs. It's part of a consortium. We're not involved in it, but it's certainly something I thought would be worthy of investigation. And then the last thing I'll lead you with, I went to wasn't much of a problem-solving workshop, so to speak, but I went to Bob Tremblay, gave a presentation. He's in the Framingham school systems now, and they just partook in a kind of like a K through 12 survey, but it was called Panorama. Are you familiar with
Sure,
Panorama?
yeah, it's another product
Yeah, it's
that's
like
very
another
similar
product.
to K-12 Insight.
So they ask their school districts to break it down or to narrow it down to 4 traits that they're trying to get out of their students, their parents, their teachers. So they're going to question them all. But one of the ones that they undertook was engagement, student engagement. And when all was said and done and the number came back, it was a very ugly number.
Yeah.
It was like south of 30% of students that were engaged across the board. Now, there were differences from grade to grade, and if you kind of broke it down to elementary versus MISCO versus high school, and they didn't really offer a whole lot of solutions of what they were going to do with this, but they just said, we kind of decided to tackle engagement because engagement speaks to SEL. These kids might be coming into the classroom and not being able to engage because their SEL is at a low. So you can't even engage with the material. And all of this affects student success. So I don't know where I want to go with that, but I just felt like, good Lord, that is such an important data piece to focus on is, are our kids engaged? Because if they were engaged, I think we could make so much more progress, So anyways, those are my takeaways.
Thank you. Sounds very productive. All right, so our next item is new business, and we'll hear about the development and implementation of a PBIS system at Coffin Memorial.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having us. We're both really excited about sharing what we've been doing. We couldn't agree with you more. Social emotional learning is so incredibly important, and it has been an area of focus in our schools for a number of years now. The purpose of us coming today to speak with you is to talk about specifically PBIS, positive behavior interventions and support, and what that looks like in our 2 schools. So we want to give you the 10,000-foot view, balcony view if you will, about what PBIS is but then we'll break down and share what we're doing in our 2 schools with it. And we'll discuss it. So we start with a question. If a child doesn't know how to read, what do? We teach them. And if we use our basic program, Wonders, and they still don't know how to read, we find another approach and another approach, and we teach them how to read. If a student doesn't know how to write, same thing. We teach them. We find different strategies, different programs, and we teach. However, if a student comes to us and doesn't know how to behave, what do? Do we teach or do we punish? And I think the answer to that question has changed dramatically over the past, certainly 5 to 10 years. One thing I was thinking about just very, very quickly when you were talking about kindergarten, it never fails to amaze me the delta that you have in skill sets at the kindergarten level, right? We've got kids that have been in some type of formal program since they were 6, 9 months old, and other kids that have never been in the program with no exposure to social skills. So it can be very challenging.
So we're here to talk about PBIS, so it's Positive Behavior Incentive System. And basically it is a research-based program, and it's used nationwide across schools. What we're excited about, the premise of it is that it's supposed to teach behavior expectations and help with the climate for learning. So like you said, you can't access the curriculum if you're not there socially and emotionally. And we don't feel that our kids come to school every day and say, I think I'm gonna be bad today. You know, what can I do to piss that teacher off? You know, that's not what they're there for. They wanna do well and they wanna please. So with the PBIS, what we're doing, instead of waiting for them to do something to get that attention, because some just need attention, and if they're only getting it when they do something negative, then, you know, shame on us. So what we're trying to do across the nation is we're focusing on the positive. So you can go on to the next one. So then what we do is we define what our core values are at our school. What do we want to focus on? And then we take those core values, and then what we do is we decide what are our expectations, and we make it clear and consistent. So everybody there, teachers, the aides, the lunch monitors, the bus, the custodians, the secretary, everyone has the same expectations. So no matter where you are, you understand. And then we teach it, and we reteach it, and we model, and we practice, and we reward, we acknowledge. I love how you're giving me a listening look, Sean, that makes me feel really good. Thank you. You know, and then when Phil is twirling on the floor, he's gonna realize that I'm giving you the positive attention, and pretty soon Phil's gonna stop. I didn't have to do the negative. I'm focusing on
You're
the
gonna get a lot of credit.
Phil kind of looks like the kid that was in that.
Yeah. So the whole focus on PBIS is having the consistent behaviors and the expectations, sharing it and modeling it and practice it and reinforcing it. Okay.
How's that?
Yeah.
And I'd like to share with you the PBIS pyramid. Very similar, when we talk about instruction, we talk about a tiered approach, different levels of support for the students. So our tier 1 is a universal. All students get that support. It's school-wide, it's culturally responsive. It includes, and we'll get into specifics, but in the district it includes Second Step, it includes RISE for Memorial, SOAR for Clough. But all students have access to that. And approximately 75 to 85% of students are very successful with that. Then we go on to tier 2, a little more intense. That typically is done through social skills group with our counselors. It might be a daily check-in, it could be a behavior chart, it could be a log that goes home between the teacher and the parent. And typically an additional 10 to 20% of students will be successful. Students getting tier 2 supports, just for clarification, also get tier 1 support. And then we have our tier 3, which is our targeted intensive level of support. And that would be students that may be in a behavior program, have FBAs, special ed programs, perhaps.
What's an FBA, Deb?
It,
Functional behavior assessment.
Okay, thank you.
and, so we would have our BCBAs working with them, and maybe having ABA support, but it's a much more intensive, typically special ed, program. And that would be less than 5% of our kids would typically need that level of support. And this is what we use when we have child studies, we're looking at students that are struggling, for example, with reading, with the writing, with math. We look at our 3 different tiers of support to promote success with all students. So that's kind of the big picture of PBIS. We're gonna start getting into our specific programs. Any questions so far? All right, Mrs. Gallagher,
All right.
you're on.
So, how did we start at CLEP? So, this is exciting. Like you, Diane, I'm very passionate on this. I feel that, children come with a different suitcase, and some have what they need, and others need us to help them fill that suitcase. So, last September 2017, it was a district initiative to go with the social and emotional learning, and Mrs. Swain and I both adopted that as our professional goal, because we're very passionate about our job has changed. It used to be to make sure our teachers teaching the academics, and now it's making sure our kids are safe and they're learning socially and emotionally, and they're accepted and they feel part of the school. And we have the growth mindset of I can do attitude. So we focused on that, and what we started to do is we started to think about more on the social and emotional. What can we do to better our schools? We thought we were doing a good job. We both do our KCR, our kind, caring, respect. We've been doing that for years, and it's been great. But we have to delve in a little bit more. So here we are in the fall, we started thinking about this, and Dr. Cohen had gotten us the grant on the Excel training, and we attended the trainings. And as we're going through there, it started really making me realize that we're not alone here. Every school is going through these problems. So you start networking and finding out what are other schools doing, and there's a lot of schools that were doing PBIS. I hired a special ed teacher, Jessica Perry, who came to us from Framingham, and one of the things that interested me most about her during the interview was that she had PBIS training. She went to, it was implemented into the Framingham schools, and I was like, oh, mental note, this is great. And when she came in, and we were dealing with some difficult behaviors, some difficult emotional problems with children. Unfortunately, we do have several emotional problems that we're dealing with. She was like, oh my God, this would be great. Can I get it started? So we started getting into it. We started researching with Mrs. Hicks, my guidance counselor, and her. And we started looking into it a little bit more. And one of the things we learned through the Excel training is that if you are going to implement a PBIS training, you must get at least 80% buy-in from staff. So we did a survey, and we actually got 99% buy-in, and it was amazing. So we knew we were ready. So in January we formulated our BS team, our behavior strategy team, and I was extremely pleased that we had 26 staff members. And what was pleasing to me was that it was an array of people. It wasn't just my teachers, it was my paras that came in at 8 o'clock in the morning to come to these meetings. I had lunch monitors, recess monitors, my secretaries, my librarians. I had so many people that I wasn't expecting. I was also happy Dennis Todd and Dr. Cohen attended several of our meetings too. And we began our journey. We began our working on our matrix, coming up with our SOAR. We attended, several of us, there were 13 of us that Dr. Cohen let us attend in January. We went to Bellingham to actually see a PBIS lesson. They were teaching the whole second grade on bus, and it was nice to see how they implemented this whole, grade level lesson. They sat with us, they helped us out, and then from there, we started going to other schools. Through the summer, we had attended, in May, along with Deb and some of her staff members, we attended the best 2-day national conference in Connecticut. We learned so much. What it did for my school is it validated that what we were already doing, we were in the right place. We had already formed our matrix at that point, and I know you started after that. It just motivated you. And my group started in the summer, and we worked on how we're going to kick this off. How are we going to roll it out? And we came up with the SOAR acronym. So the first thing you're supposed to do is come up with your acronym. We chose SOAR, safe. We want our kids to be safe. We want our kids on task. We want them to act KCR. We did not want to throw that kind, caring, respect out. We wanted to make sure, like, this is who we are, this is what our kids they live and breathe, it's what our parents go by. So we wanted to make sure that was in our new acronym, and we want our kids to be responsible for their learning, responsible for themselves and their actions. This poem actually is something that I used to use when I was in second grade, and I am gonna read it just because I think it hits of why we do this. A child is a butterfly in the wind. Some can fly higher, but each one flies the best it can. Why compare one against the other? Each one is different, each one is special, each one is beautiful. When I first started teaching, I used to use this for the academics, so some kids could read, but then I can't ride a bike. Some kids can do math, but they can't read. My job's to help them get there. And now we're using this as our poem to also signify the behaviors. They're all different. Every single child that comes in has a different story, has different limitations for different things. So we are focusing on that. We rolled our PBIS out during our KCI time. I did want you to just have a sample of what we're doing. Our PBIS is done during KCI time. We meet grade level every week, so all third grades meet, all second, all first, all third, all fourth, kindergarten, and then once a month, my specialist, Mrs. And Mrs. Perry and Mrs. Hicks, they'll do a lesson on whichever one we're rolling out. So in September, we rolled out classroom expectations, and that was started off in the classroom because they had their own expectations. And what we tried to do is have them come up with their own, but then we came up with a school expectation. So we wanted everybody to be on the same page. So whether you're in the classroom or you're in the hallway, you're in the cafeteria, lunch, everybody was speaking the same language. Everybody knew what was expected. Everybody knew that this is accepted behavior, this is unaccepted behavior, and this is what we're looking for. So there's no more going into Mr. DeZetta's room and saying, this is what I expect, but if I go into Dr. Maruschek's room, well, they let me get away with a little bit more. They're not really on, hurting feelings or whatever. Everybody has the same expectations. We do a different focus each month, so we've already done classroom expectations, cafeteria, we just did bathroom lesson. Believe it or not, you have to teach bathroom. It's amazing the problems we're having in the bathroom. When you let children go in, they don't follow the rules at home. You have to teach it. We actually moved it up. It was supposed to be a January lesson, and we switched it out, and we taught bathroom expectations. This month, we're gonna do recess.
Was that at the high school too?
It's amazing, if I shared what we had to do, right? But we have expectations, and now children all know what they've learned. We also teach during our faculty meetings, we teach the lessons as well. Every teacher was given a PBS binder. What you have is a snippet of what was in the binder, but every teacher has a binder, and each lesson is added to it. We also do the second step anti-bullying, and in there I put our matrix.
Do we know matrix?
I'll just, quickly. This is what our matrix is. I guess we don't. I put it in there, but basically it's the SOAR, and it shows what it looks like in the bathroom, what SOIR looks like in the class, in the cafeteria, on the bus. So every child, we have posters, as you can see on the right, the butterfly posters. These are everywhere. So these are things we've implemented. So we have bathroom posters, cafeteria posters, classroom posters. They are up. Huge one in the cafeteria, small one in the classrooms. Bathrooms are outside of the boys and girls room. So it reminds them and reinforces of what SOAR behavior looks like in the bathroom, what it looks like in the caf. We have a voice meter in every single classroom, also in the hallway, in the cafeteria. The voice meter is something that we introduce to class, to every student, so they know if the teacher's talking, they'll go up, they'll move the little butterfly, and they'll say, okay, we're gonna do turn and talks. The butterfly goes up to, whispering, or if they're gonna do partner, the butterfly goes up to a normal voice. If the teacher is talking and they need their attention, it goes to silence. So when in the cafeteria, they have table talk, they can talk all during the cafeteria, but when it's time to clean up or they need to give a message, they move the butterfly down, and the kids know. So it's very consistent. Everybody uses it. It's a way to understand the difference of an outside door voice as a classroom as a whisper. We've modeled it, we do this. The introduction of a school-wide silent sign is something that comes out of the second step. we found that whenever we have the kids all together for an event, you know, some teachers do a clap, some do this, some do a whistle, some do a light. And when we get them all together for a concert or a cultural art, it's like, you know, they don't know what to do. So we wanted to do a school-wide signal. So this works perfectly. It's a 5, you know, your eyes are listening, your eyes are looking, your ears are listening, your body is still, you're calm, you're focused, and everybody's doing it. I even do it at Walker dismissal, 5, 4, 3. By the time we get to 3, the kids are quiet, they're focused, they're looking. It's awesome. It's the difference of what we've seen already. And then these are things that are happening so far. So every student at the beginning of the year, we gave them Watch Me Soar pencils. You thought I gave them like the biggest Christmas gift. It was so cute. One mother came in a couple days later and they said, Mrs. Gallagher, my daughter said that I have to get you a gift. And I was like, why? Because you gave her the best gift. You gave them all a gift. I gave them a pencil. But it was so awesome that they appreciated the pencil. Students earn butterflies, so when we see you doing something, like I love how Lee Martin is looking through the booklet. This is awesome. It shows me you're interested. Thank you. You know, we get butterflies. The children get butterfly tickets. They're a different color for each area. So for the classroom expectations, it's pink. The bathroom, it's blue. The hallway, it's green. And what they do is when they get a butterfly, they're told why they're giving it. And each teacher has a butterfly net in the classroom. They just throw them in. We tally it up. We keep data. How many butterflies do the classes get? We have a bulletin board.
Excellent.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. So in this one, the kids, we do monthly, we put all the butterflies kids get into a big bin, and then we pick out a winner of a pre-K, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. They come down, they get a special prize, they get their picture taken, email sent to their parents. And then the next page shows that each month, they put all their butterflies from their class into the big bulletin board that's in our hallway so everybody can see them. And then my specialists, my guidance, we count them and we track them. And then at the beginning of each month, a grade level that gets the most butterflies gets a prize. They vote on it during KCR time. And then I do a principal's award. And that's been fun because we've done 2 so far. The first one, I said, we made up a whole list of what they could get. It could be recess, it could be me reading a book, have a pajama party, snack, lunch with me, whatever. The first one picked gym class with me. They wanted me to go to gym, and I don't think they realized, like, okay, I was brought up with 4 boys, I love sports, this is not a bad thing, and they're like, you're really gonna play? I played dodgeball, and I was excited because I knocked Mr. Hayes out, and it was great. I mean, I came in sneakers, they talked about it for a week, that I was going to do it. When I came and showed up in sneakers, I had more fun. I mean, it was awesome, but it also got me really connected with this grade, and got to reinforce it. This past one, I was very nervous about, so I totally understood how kids get nervous, because they chose me to go to art with them, and I'm not autistic. And I got really nervous. I didn't sleep for 2 nights because I'm like, they're gonna draw better than me. What am I gonna do? I don't know. And I literally was
Jan, do I have
like,
to remind you what your age is?
I know, and it was a kindergarten class, but
Mindset.
Yeah.
and that's what I did. I went and said, I can do this, I think I can, I think I can. And I went in and I drew the picture, and the kids were like, Mrs. Gallagher, that's awesome, it's beautiful. And I saw myself like coming out of my shell, and I said, so I'm going back next week and I'm gonna paint it, you know. So it was awesome. It was kindergarten. No, there's some really good artists in kindergarten. But I love the arts because I feel like that's where some of the kids that don't succeed in a regular class, they succeed in the art and the music. So I'm 100% supportive of this. So there's my drawing. There's me as a student. And then the other thing that we've done, the student contest, we have, so we have spirit wear that we wanted to do with SOAR. We have a whole bulletins devoted to all the kids that contributed to the contest from kindergarten to 4th. And the winner is the SOAR. It says, I think it was like, our teachers at Clef teach us how to soar. And we're gonna have spirit wear made up with that. So it's been amazing, and I think that's, oh, and the flip book. So the other thing was just, we shared it out, I've shared it out at school council, PTO meetings, and these books we sent home, and we did decide to do it in paper because we wanted parents to know this was important. So this explains also for parents what our PBIS program is. We encourage them during conferences, the teachers talk with the parents about it as well, and ask them to keep it at home so they could reinforce it. And I've had parents that have sent me emails saying that, you know, their child is soaring and they're using butterflies at home, and they just, you know, love the program. So the feedback's been phenomenal. Kids are happy for other kids. It's not a contest. They're like, they go for their class. They'll be like, I saw so-and-so, they were doing this, you know, they were soaring today. And, you know, I'm seeing kids wearing butterflies to school, and it's been wonderful. And I gave you that because I'm hoping that if you have feedback, it's still a work in progress. We're calling it our pilot year. But I love the community and the way, the consistency, that a child knows wherever they are, whoever they have, we have the same expectations, and we're gonna acknowledge the good behavior. So that's where we're at.
Wonderful.
Now we're gonna rise.
Now we're gonna rise. We are indeed. We're going to rise and learn at Memorial. So, we started by training, as I said, SEL has been a focus for a number of years. We started by training all of our staff, including our lunch ladies, recess monitors, custodians, in zones of regulation, sensory integration, teachers on collecting behavior data through ABC charts, and we've had ongoing SEL trainings through our staff meetings. PBIS really was introduced to me as a program by Jan. And that was the reason that we went together to that conference, which was amazing in Connecticut. We have been doing a number of different programs, a number of different SEL strategies, which have been very, very successful. But that common expectation, communication was still, had a ways to go. And so because Jan was so excited about PBIS, I got a team together, we went together, and it was probably 2 of the best PD days that we as a team have had. It was wonderful. So we've been, as part of this process, we've been addressing our behaviors through this child study process. As I shared before when we were talking about the pyramid, if a student with a universal support is still struggling, we go to tier 2 and then tier 3. Teachers come to us with data points. When they come to us, they're not just saying a kid can't read. They're coming with specific information about their lexiles, about their dibbles, how many words per minute, is it comprehension, is it fluency. That's the kind of data we're looking at when we're dealing with behaviors today. It's much more defined, it's just much more thorough to help us really plan what are the supports that we need for our students. We started by having a team of 23 members meet throughout the spring and the summer, and through that process we defined our values. What are our core values? What are the things that we feel are most important, we want every child in our building to be able to demonstrate mastery of? And we came up with respect, inclusivity, safety, and empathy. And RISE became our mantra. We then developed a matrix to describe what those expectations would look like for each core value in various different settings. And we have, whoops, sorry, fat fingering over here. This is our draft matrix, and as you can see, it has the respect, inclusivity, safety, and empathy. What does that look like on the bus? What does it look like when we're entering and exiting the building? And then in here is also the people or person that explicitly taught those skills and are responsible for reviewing and reteaching. And as you can see, you know, we have it in pretty much every setting. So that's what our matrix looks like. This is our logo, RISE, thanks to Chris Moran, who did an amazing job. We have signs like this throughout the building. In fact, we have one in our cafeteria that, oh my goodness, it's like 4 feet by 8 feet. It's enormous. It's wonderful. And we started the school year by giving everybody in the building, staff and students, a RISE bracelet that has our core values. And so I have some bling for you to pass around. We have we introduced this by having grade level assemblies. I met with kindergarten students. I went into each of the kindergarten classrooms and met with those students. I showed very kid-friendly video clips. Try to explain empathy to a 5-year-old or inclusivity to a 7-year-old. There are some amazing, very appropriate, very cute videos out there. And so that's what we did. We shared those videos, we talked about it. We've then had people that were on the matrix do their explicit teaching of the expectations. We use RISE language when we provide feedback. We're very specific. I will hear students saying, you're doing a really good job being respectful of other learners because it's quiet going up the stairs or quiet in the hallway, or I really like the way that you included me at the, indoor recess, the game. And we're very specific in how we provide feedback. Our plan is to, again, as we explained earlier, teach, reteach. And so we have created a travel brochure, if you will, and it will look like this, that the students will all get when they come back, and we are encouraging teachers to take the students on a field trip. They will go, and teachers are meeting as grade level teams to decide how they're going to do that. If they're going to focus on a specific letter each week or specific location, just to review and go over this. We have monthly assemblies in which we focus on different letter from RISE. November we focused on R for respect, and students in the 3rd grade Spanish immersion program, Senorita Hendricks class, created videos to show to the rest of the students to explain what respect looks like. I introduced them to the blue tickets and brag tags, and so all teachers have a bunch of blue tickets, and as Jan's butterflies, they're given out to students that we see modeling RISE behaviors. Students then collect them and can turn them in for brag tags. What's a brag tag, you say? Those are brag tags. We found that kids love collecting anything. And so we had custom-made RISE brag tags that everybody got when we started, with a little chain, as you can see, for their jackets. Some kids are wearing them on their jackets, their zippers. Other kids are wearing them, putting them on their backpack. And so each month, once they collect their 3 blue tickets, they can trade it in for a different brag tag. And we feature a brag tag each month that coincides with whatever the core value is that we're emphasizing. Students then turn their blue tickets in monthly at the office, and we are working as a school to fill that. And once we do, then we will have a special event school-wide to celebrate the great work that they're doing. Oops, sorry. So our tier 1, again, these are the supports that are for all students. We're using Second Step. Second Step we're doing as a collaboration between classroom teachers and our specialist team. As Jan explained, KCR, we have KCC, Kindness Caring Club. Students meet with a specialist team every other week. We divide the classes, grade levels, in half. And so they're working with their classroom teachers as well as a specialist team around Second Step lessons. The classroom teacher does the main lesson. The special team, as well as the classroom teachers, choose follow-up lessons. And those themes coincide with whatever our focus is that month from RISE. The KCC, Kindness and Caring Club, again, as I said, continues. They meet with a specialist team bi-monthly, and we also build into this program service projects so that students can practice being kind and caring. We do holiday sing-alongs at the Upton Senior Center. We do caring breakfasts. We've done a number of fundraisers. those kind of things, service-based. And I just wanted to share very quickly some of the Tier 2 supports that we have in place. We have a check-in, check-out goal chart. These are, again, for like 10 to 20% of the students that the Tier 1 supports aren't quite enough. So a check-in, check-out, they meet with Kathy Girton in the morning. They set their goals together. They, not only what they're gonna be working on, but what their success rate is, because we allow a little wiggle room in there. Nobody's necessarily at 100% first time out. So then they check out at the end of the day, give feedback, set goals for the next day. Social skills group, she works on a number of different things, again, reinforcing the zones of regulation, social skill agenda. Individualized break and reward activities. If you look over on the right, far right, we have a cool down or break area with Mrs. Girton, and students can go in there and take a break. We have scheduled break for students that struggle, so they know at a certain time, one of our academic tutors will go up, take them out, they'll come down, have a 5-minute break, and then they'll go back to the classroom. Students can also ask for breaks if they're struggling with something. They can either take the break within the classroom or they can come down. We've worked with the teachers to create sensory baskets for all of the classrooms. So there's a common area where students can go within the classroom when they need to. And then students in the check-in, check-out are earning memorial bucks. And they earn it and then they can cash it in for different prizes. Typically those prizes are activity-based. And that kind of wraps it up.
Great.
It's exciting.
It is.
And it's definitely a work in progress. You know, we get together with the committee a couple times a month, and one of the things that I have really found kind of struggling with is we've got school council. You meet with them, they're ecstatic. I go to PTO, we talk about this. They have all kinds of great ideas. I meet with my grade level leaders Wednesday mornings. And again, more great ideas are coming up. And trying to kind of just honor all of these great suggestions and share it out with everybody.
Emily Niss comes every week, Friday, on the banking day, and she's on my school council. And so I presented to the school council, and she wanted to know about it, and then she came and she goes, can I give out butterflies too? So now she gets a stack, so when she sees some nice behavior and stuff, she's giving it out. So it's been wonderful.
It really has been.
Knock on wood. And we meet weekly and we go through data and we see what works, what doesn't, what do we need to tweak. You know, we have a Google Doc going with teachers, so if they have suggestions, then we look at those too. So, but open to suggestions.
So I love that you're involving the students, like with the videos and the assemblies. I think that's great.
Yeah, they're loving it.
I'm just curious, I'm asking a question, I'm not making a real comment here, I'm just really curious about this. Is this the right age to start teaching about having respect for differences in others?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That's part of what
That's
we do.
part of
And
it.
it's definitely part of the second step program too, so it really coincides nicely with it, so the lessons will overlap. And then what we teach during our KCR, our second step, and through these lessons, the teachers teach and reinforce, and there's follow-up lessons for everything. So the teachers, and then if a teacher says, okay, we're struggling with this, you know, identifying or accepting, then we'll get other lessons that will go along. And sometimes we have to change things and we have to do
So
lessons.
a follow-up question, is this also the appropriation to teach for having respect for differences of opinion or differences?
Yeah, it's listening to one another, and they
That's
do that in
pretty
the
cool.
classrooms though. So they already do that in the classrooms. I have teachers that they have a protocol and it's up in their room. And it's like you listen respectfully, you
Yeah,
have
like
a
you
voice.
respectfully disagree
Yeah.
with someone.
And they teach them that.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
mean, it's amazing.
We're also working on collecting a list of books and purchasing the books as resources to go with the 5 competencies from Castle as part of SEL, and just addressing everything that you could possibly imagine, and just teachers being able to add their input, or if they have the book and they're willing to share it. We're just looking to like, how can we get as many resources as possible in the hands of teachers for when a situation comes up? I mean, back when I was in the classroom 100 years ago, we would refer to it as a teachable moment, right?
There are actually books that go along with our
All
lessons and
these
stuff,
things,
so the
yeah.
teachers have them and they reinforce it and read it. So we've been able to find books and still looking for others, but there's been great books on like bathroom etiquette and the recess and different things about sharing and being nice and including others
And even the Wonders program, the people that
that goes along.
with the book, I went to a great workshop with one of my teachers on teaching SEL through the Wonders program, and it was wonderful. You know, some great suggestions that we're able to take back, and then at staff meetings share out with the teachers. So there's a lot of buy-in, a lot of excited people, a lot of great
That's
ideas. I see it as a work in progress. I think it's going to be very fluid. And as we learn more and try things.
And the bus drivers are excited, so I've talked with Mo, and she's excited because when we do the bus one, we want the bus drivers there to help teach and to talk and to see what we're doing, so they can see that we're reinforcing. Because sometimes kids forget, like they think they get on the bus that's like they're on their own. They don't realize it's all tied together, and as soon as you get picked up, you're part of school until you get dropped off. So they're excited to be part of it and to see that there's gonna be a month-long lesson and reinforcing, and they'll be able to give out butterflies as well. So I think the connectiveness of bringing the community in is important.
It's a lot of work to,
Yeah, it's been exciting work though.
It
Yeah.
has been exciting work.
especially if you think of how impactful it could potentially be, because basically what you're doing is creating a safe environment. You're creating an emotionally safe
Emotionally safe
environment for
for
kids.
everyone.
Because school isn't always an emotionally safe environment for kids, you know, with the hierarchy of students, the haves, the have-nots, all of that. You're kind of leveling the playing field. So it'll be interesting to see what your data points are, you know, 6 months from now,
Mhm.
and how it affects learning
Yes.
and student success, because I think it will.
Yeah, I've already seen data that shows that it's already
Yeah.
did it.
I definitely think it has great potential.
And now we just got the kindergartners come in, so next year when you do it, you start going up, the
Keep
kids
going.
are already gonna know it, because we're
Yeah.
just teaching and reinforcing, so I think each year, you know,
Yeah,
it's
it
just gonna
becomes
get
like
better and
routine or
better.
habit. It's awesome.
Good
Thanks
stuff.
for letting us share.
Yeah, thank you for letting us share.
Thanks for sharing.
Okay. Next we move on to correspondence. Is there?
Yeah, just one quick thing, and I'll share it with you. Just got it in. It's a thank you note from the Upton Men's Club and Brad DiDio, who is the chair of the Upton Fireworks. Just a very gracious thank you for your support and permission in supporting the annual fireworks festival.
All right. Always happy to help, right? Thank you for the work. Okay, any other correspondence?
There's just a note on the Mercy Leads book.
Yes.
That was excellent, I have to say. That, Anya Kamenetz is her name or something like that. She's a pretty acclaimed expert on education and higher ed and the whole situation with testing and everything like that. But she did a fantastic, and I'm in the middle, I'm almost done with the book that she wrote, but it has to do with screen time. And-
I watched that.
And the discussion was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I've been looking for someone who had actual data, you know, she figured it out and put all the data out there. I'm really impressed with that. So I've been looking all over the place, and I couldn't find anything, and there it is!
In our district.
In our district.
Yeah.
And not only that, she's a rocket as far as reputation is concerned. The fact that we cornered her and it looked like she had
She
to
was
take a
willing to
break out for her
participate.
kids there a
I
couple
know,
of
it was
times.
really funny.
But it
She
was
disappeared.
very impressive that we could put something like that in
Yeah.
front of our community, so I just wanted to bring that
Yeah,
up.
Dave Quinn does an
He does.
outstanding job with that. It's
Yeah.
to be commended.
So
Yeah.
I
awesome,
agree.
so awesome.
All right, any other matters not anticipated by this committee, 48 hours, within 48 hours of the posted meeting? All right, hearing none. Future agenda items will include the Spanish Immersion Program Evaluation Report on December 10th and the Alternative Structured Learning Day proposal on December 10th as well. All right. There are no other matters before the committee, so the committee needs a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned at 8:43.
Do you have a copy of your PowerPoint?
Yes.
Ms.
Yeah,
Howell
we
thinks
can
we can
share
do
that.
it.
Can you share that?
24 degrees is the high.
For what?
Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're saying all kinds of.
I'm worried about the condition of the field, because right now, if you drive past it, there's snow on that field.
Oh, good.
And I guess we're supposed to get